Are you sure you're watering your cucumbers correctly? It seems simple enough, right? Just grab a watering can and pour. But then you end up with bitter, misshapen cucumbers. That's right, improper watering is often the main culprit behind disappointing harvests. Today, we're going to break down 5 golden rules for cucumber care that will completely transform your approach. These aren't just tips, they're a complete system that guarantees you crisp, sweet, and perfectly straight cucumbers. And trust me, the 5th rule will surprise even the most seasoned gardeners. Cucumbers are essentially 95% water, so you'd think you could just pour and pour, but that's precisely where the main pitfall lies. Despite their love for moisture, these vegetables are incredibly finicky. They're highly sensitive to water temperature, time of day, and even how water lands on their leaves. Without knowing these subtleties, we inadvertently stress the plant, and a stressed cucumber is a direct path to bitter fruit. Here's rule number 1. This might be the most common and most damaging mistake that 90% of gardeners make. It's all about water temperature. Remember this once and for all. Never, and I mean never, water your cucumbers with cold water. Many of us think, what's the big deal? It's summer, it's hot, plants need moisture. Just grab the hose, connect it to the well or tap, and you're done. Quick and convenient. But in reality, at that very moment, we're doing terrible damage to our cucumbers. Imagine this. You've been soaking up the summer sun, really warming up, and suddenly someone dumps a bucket of ice-cold water on you. What would you feel? Shock? Exactly the same shock, only many times more intense, is what the cucumber's root system experiences. Roots thriving in warm, preheated soil are actively working. They're busy absorbing moisture and nutrients. And then, suddenly, an icy torrent, 10–15 degrees Celsius colder, crashes down on them. What happens next? This sudden temperature shock causes those delicate feeder roots to simply stop working. They constrict, literally going into a state of shock. All processes of water and nutrient absorption instantly halt. The plant, standing knee-deep in water, paradoxically begins to suffer from thirst. It sounds absurd, but it's true. Growth stops. The cucumber enters a state of profound stress. And what does a cucumber do when it's stressed? It defends itself. Its main defense mechanism is the production of a substance called cucurbitacin. This is precisely what gives the fruits that awful bitterness. So, bitter cucumbers aren't a characteristic of the variety. They're a direct result of your icy shower. So what's the solution? It's simple. Your watering should be done with warm water. Ideally, its temperature should match that of the soil, which is around 22 to 25 degrees Celsius, 72 to 76 degrees. The easiest way to achieve this is to place a large barrel or any other dark container in your garden. Fill it with water in the morning, and by the end of the day, the sun will have warmed it to the perfect temperature. This settled warm water is a true elixir for your cucumbers. Remember, warm water isn't a mere whim. It's the fundamental key to a sweet and bountiful harvest. Let's move on to the second, equally crucial rule, the correct time for watering. Many gardeners make a common mistake. They water their plants whenever they find a spare moment, often in the middle of the day under the scorching sun. This is a critical error that delivers a double blow to your plants. Let's explore why. The first reason, which we've already covered, is a sudden temperature shock. During the day, the soil and roots are at their hottest. Even if you use warm water from a barrel, the temperature difference will still be significant, causing stress to the plant. But there's a second, equally insidious danger of daytime watering. Imagine, as you water, droplets inevitably land on the broad leaves of your cucumber plants. What happens then? Under the bright sun, each tiny droplet acts like a miniature lens. It focuses the sun's rays, just like a magnifying glass. This creates a real burn on the delicate leaf surface, appearing as a yellow or whitish spot. The leaf is damaged, and its ability to photosynthesize is reduced. Numerous such burns weaken the entire plant, making it more vulnerable to diseases. Furthermore, in hot weather, Water evaporates very quickly from both the soil surface and the leaves. It simply doesn't have time to reach the deeper roots, where it's needed most. This means you're wasting water and effort, as the effect of such watering is minimal. Most of the moisture simply evaporates into the atmosphere instead of being absorbed by the plant. So, when is the ideal time to water your cucumber plants? There are two optimal times. The first, and arguably the best, is early morning. The sun isn't yet intense, the soil has cooled overnight, and the water will have ample time to deeply penetrate the soil and reach the roots before the daytime heat sets in. This provides the plant with the moisture it needs for the entire hot day ahead. The second acceptable option is in the evening, after the sun has set. The water will still have time to soak in thoroughly overnight. However, there's one important caveat. If nights are cold and your greenhouse isn't well ventilated, increased humidity can encourage fungal diseases. This is why morning watering is almost always preferred. Remember, morning is for drinking, daytime is for rest, and evening is a compromise. Now, let's talk technique. Tip number 3. Where and how should you water your cucumbers? Seems simple, right? Yet, this is precisely where many gardeners make a mistake that opens the door to some of the most dangerous cucumber diseases. Very often, you'll see gardeners giving their cucumbers a refreshing shower, generously watering them from above with a watering can or a hose with a spray nozzle. The logic is understandable. You want to wash off dust and cool the leaves in the heat. But in reality, you're doing them a disservice. Cucumbers don't like getting their leaves wet, and there's a very good reason for it. Moisture that lingers on the leaves creates an ideal environment for fungal spores to germinate. This is especially dangerous in greenhouses, where the air is already humid and during cloudy weather. The worst enemies of cucumbers, powdery mildew and downy mildew, absolutely thrive in such conditions. First, a white or yellowish film appears on the leaves. Then they start to yellow, dry out, and die. The plant loses its ability to photosynthesize, stops producing fruit, and can eventually perish. Watering the leaves, especially in the evening, when the moisture doesn't have time to dry before night, becomes the main cause of epidemics for these diseases. You're essentially creating a breeding ground for pathogens with your own hands. So, what's the correct way? The only correct method is to water strictly at the base, directly at the root. Do not pour water onto the main stem to avoid causing rot. It's best to create a small circular furrow or basin around each plant, about 10 to 15 centimetres, 4 to 6 inches, away from the stem, and pour warm water precisely into this furrow. The water will slowly and evenly soak in, going directly to the root system, exactly where it's needed. Meanwhile, the stem and leaves remain dry and protected. This method not only safeguards your cucumbers from diseases, but also allows water to penetrate deeper into the soil, stimulating the development of strong roots. Remember, cucumbers drink with their roots, not their leaves. Your task is to deliver water precisely where it's needed, straight to the roots, without drenching the foliage. The fourth rule for healthy cucumbers is all about balance. How often and how much water they truly need. There's a popular myth that goes, cucumbers love water, so you should water them a little bit every day. This approach is fundamentally wrong and actually leads to a weak, shallow root system. Let's understand why. When you water frequently but with small amounts, the moisture only penetrates the top 2 to 4 inches, 5-10 centimeters of soil. The plant's roots, seeking this moisture, spread out horizontally instead of growing deep. This results in an incredibly vulnerable root system. It dries out quickly in hot weather, suffers from the slightest lack of moisture, and can't reach the deeper soil layers for essential nutrients. The plant becomes weak, entirely dependent on constant watering, and struggles to tolerate even brief dry spells. The correct strategy is to water less often, but much more deeply. What does this mean in practice? Instead of splashing just a litre of water per plant every day, it's far better to give each plant 5 to 10 litres of warm water every 2 to 3 days, or even every other day during intense heat. This generous, deep watering allows the soil to be thoroughly moistened down to 8 to 12 inches, 20-30 centimeters, the roots, sensing moisture deeper down, will naturally grow downwards to reach it. This encourages the development of a powerful, deep, and well-branched root system. Such a plant becomes strong and self-sufficient. It can easily survive several days without watering. It absorbs nutrients more effectively and consequently yields a significantly larger harvest. How do you know when it's time to water? It's quite simple. Just feel the soil about 2 to 3 inches, 5 to 7 centimeters deep. If it's dry, grab your watering can. If it still feels moist, give your cucumbers another day. Don't be afraid to let the top layer of soil dry out a bit. It will actually benefit your plants. And now for the fifth, and perhaps most overlooked rule. This rule concerns the crucial connection between watering and feeding, and it's a common pitfall even for seasoned gardeners, often without them realizing it. We're going to talk about the right way to combine watering and fertilizing. Many home gardeners follow this pattern. They notice the soil is dry and figure it's time to feed their plants. So they take fertilizer, dilute it in water, and then apply this nutrient solution directly to the dry soil. It seems logical, a way to kill two birds with one stone. But in reality, this is a direct path to chemical root burn. Imagine what happens. In dry soil, the concentration of salts is already elevated. When you pour a concentrated fertilizer solution onto it, that concentration becomes critical. The delicate, fine feeder roots, which are responsible for nutrient uptake, simply can't withstand such a shock. Their cell walls are damaged, they get burned, and they die. As a result, the plant not only fails to absorb the nutrients, but also loses a portion of its root system. Instead of helping, you inflict serious harm. The plant weakens, yellows, and you're left wondering why, after fertilizing, it only seems to have gotten worse. And the reason is simple. You fed it into dry soil. So how do you do it correctly? Remember the golden rule of gardening. First water, then feed. Never apply fertilizers, whether liquid or granular, to dry soil. The correct approach looks like this. First, thoroughly water your plants with plain, warm water. Give the water time to soak in well. Wait an hour or two. During this time, the soil will become uniformly moist, and any existing salt concentrations will naturally equalize. The roots will wake up and be ready to absorb nutrients. Only then should you apply the fertilizer, diluted according to the product instructions. Pour the nutrient solution into the same moistened areas around the plant's base. In moist soil, the fertilizer will distribute evenly and remain at a safe concentration. The roots will be able to easily and fully absorb it without any risk of burning. This simple trick, watering first, then fertilizing, will significantly boost fertilizer effectiveness and safeguard the health of your plants. So, what really happens when we disregard these rules? Here's the kicker. Watering your plants with cold water, directly on the leaves, especially at midday. That's more than just a simple error. It's a triple whammy for the plant, triggering a chain reaction. First, the sudden temperature shock makes the roots constrict, effectively shutting down their ability to absorb water and nutrients. Your plant literally freezes up. Secondly, water droplets on the leaves under direct sunlight act like tiny magnifying glasses, causing microburns. These aren't just unsightly spots, they're open wounds, direct entry points for infections. It's often after such a shower that cucumbers are most susceptible to that dreaded powdery mildew or downy mildew. You're essentially creating the perfect breeding ground for diseases. And thirdly, the most devastating blow comes from fertilizing dry soil. Roots already under stress get a chemical burn from the concentrated fertilizer. As a result, they're unable to properly nourish the plant. In essence, incorrect watering doesn't just fail to help, it actively causes damage. You are, with your own hands, creating unbearable conditions that force the cucumber to defend itself by producing cucurbitation, the compound responsible for that bitter taste. Bitter and misshapen fruits are your plant's cry for help. So, let's recap. Proper cucumber care isn't magic, it's knowledge. Remember, always use warm, settled water. Water strictly at the base of the plant, preferably in the early morning. Water generously, but allow the soil to dry out slightly between waterings. And never fertilise dry soil. Always water first, then fertilise. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If these tips were helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new secrets for a bountiful harvest. Do you have any cucumber growing hacks? Have you encountered any unusual problems while cultivating them? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's discuss it together.